and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Bench. I am Rocco Granato from InLacrosseWeTrust.com, and with me, as usual, from up in, I'll say, sunny Toronto, Canada, after last week, none other from LaxPhilly.com, Gary Groob. Gary, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good, man. We're into the big thaw over here now. For those of you who haven't seen an ice storm closer to the end of April, I was able to experience that for the first time in my 51 years, and I'm telling you, I don't want to do that again.
No, I don't blame you at all. I mean, while you were going through an ice storm last weekend, we were in the 80s. We had blue sky, 80-degree weather while you were having the ice storm. And, we're only a matter of, 7 hours away?
We could have had weather by Sybil. It's the most ridiculous thing I've seen. And by next week, we should be into the, probably into the 70s. So, who knows what's going on here? Try and dress for this.
Yeah, I think we're going from winter to summer. We ain't, going to see spring at all. But
I just think it's funny is that, you can't dress for it. So, never mind. It's a good thing we're a box lacrosse nation, because we were a field, we wouldn't know what we're doing.
No, we wouldn't know what the heck we're doing. But before we get into everything, let's first of all start off with the playoff scenarios for this weekend. And I'm going to add one into it after I go through them real quick. This weekend, Buffalo could clinch a playoff berth with a victory over Toronto and a New England loss to Rochester. Rochester can clinch a playoff berth with a win over New England, or they could also clinch a home playoff game with a win and a Buffalo loss. So a win and a loss by the Bandits will give Rochester at least one home playoff game. The Toronto Rock will be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss. Now, I'm also going to add in here, should New England lose this weekend, they're basically on life support with the plug halfway out. And the reason I say that is this. They lose this week, the best they can do is 9-9. Okay? You have Georgia right now sitting at 9-7. They have 2 games next week. The last game of the year on the 28th, or the 29th, which will be against New England. But before that, next Friday, a week from tomorrow, they play the Vancouver Stealth. Now, unless Vancouver gets up for this game to play spoiler, all Georgia would have to do next week is win that game, and that would be it.
Evan Schemenauer put out in his weekly article. He did the calculus on everything, and literally, you have to be part of MIT or NASA to get through all this stuff.
Yeah.
His thing was this: if Rochester or Georgia win one more game, they're in the playoffs. Period.
Right.
If both Rochester and Toronto win this weekend, Georgia's in the playoffs as well. And it also guarantees Rochester a home playoff game. Buffalo can get into the playoffs with a win and a Rochester win this week.
Wait a minute, Gary.
Yep.
If New England loses, they still have a shot. What would have to happen is Georgia would have to lose to Vancouver, and then that final game, Georgia against New England, would be for that playoff spot. Because if Georgia would lose out, they'd be 9-9, so would New England, but New England would hold the tiebreaker.
No, I'm not finished. So if Toronto loses to Buffalo this weekend, they're eliminated, and Toronto can't finish first any longer. They cannot make it no matter what.
Right.
Even if they win out. And New England can play spoiler with a win, and nobody clinches anything. It'd be miraculous to have another season where nobody's clinched a playoff spot in the division until the final week. Then, a few more simplicities going forward. If Rochester wins out, they secure first in the East. If Georgia wins out, they are no worse than second, and they would need Rochester to lose once to finish first. If Buffalo wins out, they finish no worse than second. This one's a bit complicated, but in every tie-break scenario, they come out ahead. If New England wins out, they are in the playoffs.
Right.
This one's complicated too, but by winning out, they are at worst put themselves into a three-way tie for first. A five-way 9-9 tie is no longer possible. Toronto screwed that up.
Right. And the thing is, New England holds the tiebreaker right now over Rochester, and if they win that last game against Georgia, they would hold it over them as well. So yeah,
that would put them in first, right? If they won out and everything else.
Yeah, but on a three-way, if it's a three-way tie, I think it goes by record against common opponents played the same amount of times.
Right.
So I don't know how that would come out.
Rochester wins out their first in the East. If they win either of their remaining games, they are in the playoffs. Although they could still finish third by splitting their remaining games.
Right.
Rochester loses out. They most likely miss the playoffs because they don't hold many tie breaks.
No.
One point where Rochester can lose out and still make the playoffs is if New England wins out and Vancouver beats Georgia. Georgia can finish first by winning out and Rochester losing one game. But if they don't win out, the Stars really have to align for Georgia to get first. The scenario stated regarding Georgia making the playoffs if both Rochester and Toronto win was something pointed out Monday after the league released its scenarios for the week.
Yeah. Now I said...
Evan went really in depth with this. And he even has a question on there, has your mind exploded yet? You know, just reading this, my head goes sideways, and I've read this many times.
Yeah, well, the easiest solution to the whole thing would just be for Buffalo to win, Rochester to win, and then you see what Georgia does next week against Vancouver. And if they beat Vancouver, then we know everything's fine. If not, then we go to Sunday, where the winner of that game would get that playoff spot against Georgia and New England. But I said this from the start when this division was going as crazy as it is, that the last game of the year, New England against Georgia, it's going to come down to that. It's going to either mean one team is in or one team is out, or it's going to decide whether that team gets a 3 seed or a 2 seed. So, I mean, it's there's so much that's going on.
If you want to go sideways on this one, here it is here. New England can win the East if they win out and Rochester beats Buffalo. If they win out, they're guaranteed to be in the playoffs, but that could be as low as third place.
Right.
New England loses out, they're out of the playoffs.
They're out, yeah. Well,
the remaining games, their future is not certain. I went through the mountain of scenarios. I would he'd bore us to death. Needless to say, if New England splits, they need to have two of the following happen. Rochester loses out, Georgia loses out, of which only one of them can happen.
Right.
Toronto loses one, or Buffalo loses out. And that, of course, it's not fun to have your fate in other teams' hands.
No.
But that's how that goes. And the Rock one is just as crazy, but simply put, if they lose one, they're out.
They're done, right. And the best thing for New England would be to win this weekend, and then they control their own destiny next week.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like I say, it's a whole lot of craziness going on with the playoff scenarios. I mean, we already know what's going on in the West. Calgary's going to travel to Colorado for round one. Then the winner faces Saskatchewan on May 10th at 7:30 Central Time. That we know. That's the only thing that we know right now. But let's get right to the games, and you see why all this came about. First game last week. Well, that was, wait a minute. That's the wrong one. Okay, wait a minute. I brought the wrong...
Rochester at Toronto.
Toronto, yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up, and I clicked on... There it is.
Now, this is a tale of two games once again.
There it is. Okay.
And Rochester, Toronto wanted to bring out that big oomph right away, and Josh Courier from Rochester scored 17 seconds in. So you can hear the air go out of ACC very quickly. But Reed Reinhold, he scored at 43 seconds, and we're off to the races here with our little bit of a track meet. Now, Toronto actually had a decent first half, and seeing Tom Schreiber back and him scoring 4 goals in the first half was a sight for sore eyes in the Toronto area. I almost had a tear. And they actually got as far as a lead as 8-3 over Rochester. And at one point, Matt Vince was pulled, and they brought in Angus Goodleaf. He came in and promptly let in a goal. And I guess they cleared Matt Vince's head, and he went back in and played lights out the rest of the game. The second half, now I saw the Rock in the tunnel before they went out, and they really looked good. They looked loose. They had a good jump to them, and it looked like they were ready to put together an entire game. So naturally, when the third quarter started, Josh Courier again scored with 46 seconds in. And Joe Resiteras scored just after that, and boom, we had a 10-10 tie. And Toronto didn't fold up. They got 2 goals from Adam Jones, one at 4 minutes and one at 10 minutes. In between hand, Tom Schreiber was awarded a penalty shot. Well, the Rock were awarded a penalty shot because of an illegal substitution by Rochester, who interfered with ball play. So right away it was a success. It was a penalty shot, unsuccessfully taken by Tom Schreiber. The rest of it was all Rochester. One of the crazy things is what was working for them in the first half, going inside, making Matt Vince uncomfortable, rattling him, making the defense move a little bit. All that stuff that worked, they changed. And we took shots from Oakville, Mississauga, Ottawa. A couple came from King of Prussia.
Yeah.
A few of them had airmail stickers on them.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. I mean, they're doing so well in the first half.
And they changed everything.
Yeah, they just completely changed it. I mean, I don't know why.
You on them for not making any adjustments, but why are you adjusting things that are working? So, of course, now this next goal, this goal by Paul Dawson, is directly related to it. They took one of these howitzer shots from past the restraining line. Of course, it missed the net, bounced off the back boards, and it landed in Paul Dawson's stick at center. And he was off to the races and promptly put the ball in the net.
Yeah, Paul Dawson did his best impression of his brother.
Yeah, well, actually, he did a pretty good job of looking like Brody Merrill in days past. And like I said, for the third game in a row, Toronto was tied going into the fourth quarter. They were tied 10-10. So this game wasn't out of reach yet. So, of course, when your season's on the line, more or less, and when you just have to push it forward, of course, we wind up losing that quarter 4-1. And never really being in the quarter.
No.
Rochester scored 1 goal of everything in that quarter. They started with Kyle Jackson on a shorthanded goal. Dan Taylor, welcome to Toronto. His first goal as a Rock. Tied it up. Joe Resiteras then scored a full-strength goal, then a power play goal. And Cody Jameson finished off on one that had to be reviewed because none of us even saw it go in the net. But an empty net goal.
Yeah.
And on review, it definitely went in the net. So.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up hitting the metal part of the net, which was...
inside the post. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all thought it dinged off the post because we heard the metal sound.
Yeah, that's something, I mean, I just don't understand why they did that. It made no sense whatsoever. This should have been a game that Toronto won. But it just seems like I don't know. I don't know if you want to say that they gave up on the coach, or they're just, things went well in the first half. Why they turn around and change it after is just mind-boggling to me. And I was rooting for Rochester in this game. But I mean, it's just, I didn't understand it. I mean, and I don't know if anybody can give us an answer to it as to why. Why, when you have everything working so well in that first half, why are you switching it up? It makes no sense. Don't fix something that is not broken. You don't do it. But Toronto likes doing it for some reason. And I'm pretty sure that there were chants of we want Miller going through the ACC Center.
Which is crazy too, because it had nothing to do with Nick Rose.
No.
Again, and I see this week after month after month. And it's like, you have an offense that is anemic. You've relied on one guy again who just got back. You scratch Brett Hickey at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I just don't get it. And that's somehow Nick Rose's fault. It's not his fault.
No.
He made some incredible saves.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there's a couple of them where he stood still. I get that.
Right.
I'll take that if he's going to stop, 50 of 60. And you look how many games this year has he been under 10 or 11? And if the offense can't score you 10 or 11 goals, you're not winning.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's in. You can put Dallas Elliott back in.
Yeah.
He's not winning.
No.
Whipper, he wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. He wouldn't have any wins. It's crazy. That's not the problem. Transitionally, where are they?
Yeah. I
Don't
mean,
see them anymore. Now, granted, Rochester did go to town, and the refs, I don't know what they were watching. Rochester was playing, as if I might say, a dirty kind of game. There were a number of things that the refs overlooked.
just a few.
And, we lost Sheldon Burns to a not so clean hit. We lost McCardle for a little bit on a not so clean hit. Matt Vince was going to take Schreiber's head off and only got 2 minutes, though he should have gotten 5.
Yeah.
Because it was deliberately intent.
I thought he was going to get ejected.
Yeah, it was deliberate and it was intent. There's no two ways about it.
Right.
And anybody who wants to discuss it, I'm happy to.
Yeah. I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, we were texting a little bit during the game. You said that, and I'm watching, and I'm like, you're 100% right. I can't argue with you on it. Now, whether or not we don't know whether or not something was said to to one of the other players that caused him to do that, but still no reason to do it. But I'm not saying that that Schreiber might have said something to Vince and that caused Vince to go after his head. No, I mean, if somebody's trash talking, you trash talking back. Don't go swinging at their head. But yeah, there were some cheap shots that the referees did miss, and that's something I just don't, understand. I mean, my whole thing when you see plays like that, and you're wondering how, with 3 officials out there, that they're missing it. Okay, they had the other official in the box. And I believe he's the one that does the shot clock, or he does some. I don't know what he's doing in there, but my thing is he could be overlooking the play too, and he can make the call. This has been my argument for the longest period of time. When you have the other all floor official sitting there,
Yeah.
he's doing something. I don't know what he's doing, but. If he sees something, he should call it,
I agree. Or he should be able to put his input into changing it because Huey, Dewey, and Louie on the floor, and that's exactly what they were.
Yeah.
Let the game get out of hand. And it became, like I say, a very unsafe place for a number of players.
Right. It just didn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, you look at the face-offs, I mean... Withers went 22 for 28. He just dominated there, and we've always said it, and everybody else has said it too. The more faceoffs that you win, it means the more extra possessions you're going to get, especially in the beginning of the game, beginning of each quarter, maybe after a much needed goal to get you back into the game. You win that ensuing faceoff, you get another chance to score 2 in a row. We've seen that happen plenty of times, but this goes, as you said, Gary, far beyond them losing 22 out of 28 faceoffs. Okay, it's the matter of first half going inside, taking the shots, beating Matt Vince, then all of a sudden saying, hey, let's try shooting from the outside again. That just didn't make any sense whatsoever. And with that happening, I mean, Toronto picked up 92 loose balls to Rochester's 79. The shots were somewhat even. Rochester had 55, Toronto with 52. Power plays, Rochester was perfect, 2 for 2, and Toronto was 1 for 4, but they also let up 2 shorthanded goals. So that didn't help matters either, letting up two shorties in the game. And you lost by 3. So that kind of helps him as well. But what happens there now is, as we said earlier, Gary, Toronto is basically on life support.
Well, it's crazy because, they had this was in their hands.
Yes.
If they win this one and now they control their own destiny. Now that
they need help.
Now it's messy.
Right. They got to win. They need help and a prayer. They need a lot to happen right now. And it's just, we're going to get into New England's situation too, because they totally screwed things up for themselves as well. So now Toronto's got a big game coming up this weekend that you're going to be at.
Yes, I am.
So behind the bench will be, part of the team will be in Buffalo. The other part, me, will be in Rochester. So we're going to be at a couple games covering them live. So, we'll try to get some interviews, see what, going on, see where everything stands. You're going to have some happy players or you're going to have some really pissed off players coming up this weekend. So now, like we said, Toronto is now basically on life support. Rochester, on the other hand, is now sitting, in first place at 9-7, tied with Georgia, but by virtue of tiebreakers, Rochester's first, then Georgia, and then Buffalo, New England, both with 8-8, and then Toronto at 7-9. The second game of the night we had, if you want to call it a game, was basically a practice. You had Saskatchewan at Vancouver. And this was the jersey auction night where the proceeds went to the Humboldt Broncos. They auctioned the game-worn jerseys off, and I think the count was like over $14,000 for those jerseys. But in this game, it was, even before it started, you could basically say it was over. The final was 20-10 in favor of Saskatchewan.
Adam Shute got his first win.
First win, yes.
Win being in goal for Saskatchewan.
Yes. First time starting. Perfect game for him to start too against Vancouver, who only has 2 wins in the whole entire season. So why not put him in against, I guess you could say, a weaker team? Okay, let him get taste a little bit of the shots of the rubber being thrown at him, and get ready. See what goes on. But Saskatchewan was up 9-1. I mean, not 9-2 at the half. I mean, it was just totally ridiculous. I mean, Vancouver opens up with the first goal of the game, and then Saskatchewan reels off 9 in a row. Like it was nothing.
They're seen as 14 minutes later when they reel up the last goal of the half.
Yeah, I mean, it was like nothing for them. I mean, just, okay, you're up 1-0? Sure, we'll throw 9 goals in. The people in Vancouver didn't know what the heck was going on. They go in that 9-goal run, then, Vancouver goes on their 4-goal run, so they start climbing back into it, bring it to 9-5. And I think Saskatchewan was just like a cat playing with a mouse. Okay, they gave them a little bit of hope. Then they come back, they score 3 more. Then Vancouver scores 2, and you got like 12-7, and that's kind of where Saskatchewan said, okay, game over. And they reeled off 7 more.
The funny thing is, usually Vancouver or Saskatchewan just says, and just holds them at bay.
Right.
This time around, they decided to show the league, here's our power.
Yeah, I mean, a 9-goal run, a 7-goal run. Yeah.
And they also had 3 power play goals in the fourth quarter alone.
Yeah. It's just...
5 for 7 on the power play. Vancouver went 1 for 1 on the power play.
Yeah.
And a shorthanded goal. Andrew Suter got a shorthanded goal.
Well, it also didn't help at 3:47 of that final quarter, with Ray getting 2 minutes for the bench minor for a bad substitution. Then he got 2. Oh, well, no, I'm sorry. That was at 51 seconds. At 3:47, he gets 2 unsportsmanlike conducts for a bench minor. Then he gets a game misconduct, a bench minor for 10. I mean, he got 14 minutes in penalties at the one point. I mean, it just made no sense whatsoever. I mean, it's got to be a bunch of pent-up frustration from the whole entire season. I mean, and Gary, just like you said, normally Saskatchewan just kind of keeps them at bay a little bit, but this was a game where Saskatchewan came out and wanted to put the foot on the throat and just take care of business. Robert Church, 4 goals, 5 assists. Ryan Keenan, 2 and 5. Dinsdale, 4 and 3. Mark Matthews, 3 goals, 8 assists. 11-point night for him there. Jeff Shatler, goal and 5 assists. Ben McIntosh, 5 goals, 2 assists. I mean, all the players, all the assassins, I'll say, came out firing. Ryan Keenan only had 2 goals, but he had 5 big assists. Mark Matthews, just 3 goals, but again, 8 assists by Mark Matthews. It's just...
And for our normal argument, when Vancouver has Pat Saunders and Andrew Suter as 2 of your 3 top scorers, you're not winning.
No.
Now, Reese Duck's got a hat trick, but after that, none of the usual suspects got anything.
No.
Tony Malcolm got a goal. Brandon Goodwin got a goal. That's it. The season can't end quick enough for Vancouver so they can try and rebuild something, anything. Like, there really isn't any reason to put anybody on. It's funny, we're talking about who you're going to protect. They might actually have some spaces for sale.
Yeah.
Protection slots.
Yeah.
Because I think there's going to be a fire sale and a half.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a lot. I think a lot's going to happen this year. I'll say now, I think you're going to see changes in Vancouver. If Toronto finishes out of the playoff race, or even if they get in, I think you're going to see some changes there behind the bench. And you might see it in New England as well. They're the 3 that I think you're really going to see some changes going on. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to win a game where Reese Dutch finally gets his hat trick, Saunders with 2, and Suter with 2. That's 7 of your 10 goals. I mean, come on. You had Dinsdale and Church combined for 8. And you still had the other part of the assassin crew come through and do what they had to do. So this was just complete annihilation by Saskatchewan. They chased Eric Penny after 47 minutes and 11 seconds. So that was 2:11 into the fourth quarter. The score at that point was 15-7 when they took him out. And they threw in Ty Bellinger. He stopped 10 out of 13. I'm sorry, no. In 47 minutes, Eric Penny let up 17 goals. So he let up 17 out of the 20. It just, the only thing where it was close was loose balls and the face-offs. That was it. Other than that, this was a game, Gary, that we both said would be over before it started last week. And that's just what Saskatchewan did. They went ahead. They did what they had to do. They win the game. They moved to 13-4. They already locked up first overall in the league, and obviously first in the West. But the weekend before last is when they locked everything up. Where they didn't have to worry about anything. Vancouver, they dropped to 2-14. They are obviously out of the playoff picture. They're just playing out the string and waiting for the string to end. And I don't think, like you said, it can't happen soon enough. The next game that we had was on Saturday night. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, Saturday night. I'm trying to go by time here. There we go. Let's go. We'll go with the Cal. No, you know what? We'll go New England. New England at Colorado. This was another game that didn't mean anything to the home team in Colorado because they already had everything locked up. They know they're in second place. They can't get first. They're not dropping down to third. They know who they're facing. It's just a matter of, okay, when are they facing the team? And this was a chance for New England to pick up another, I don't want to say easy win, but a game to where, they should win this game because it doesn't mean anything to their opponent. But this had to be one of the sloppiest games I ever saw by both teams. I don't know if you saw it, Gary, but we were 7 minutes into the game, and Colorado was getting outshot 10-1.
Yep.
7 minutes into the game, 10-1. They were being outshot, and the score was only 1-1. So a lot of those saves, Dylan Ward was coming up big time. Otherwise, it could have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see Dylan Ward in at all. I thought Steve Fryer would have got the start.
Yeah. Me too. Because, like we said, the game meant nothing to them. Just a matter of, okay, are we going to beat New England? Can we split the season series with them? What's, going on?
And the rest of Colorado played it as that.
Right. Because they didn't have Stephen Keogh was not in the lineup. He wasn't playing.
The rest were.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough. And did nothing.
No.
Ryan Benesh, no goals, 1 assist. Jacob Ruett, 1 goal, no assists. Jeremy Noble, 1 goal, 2 assists. Ryan McLaughlin, 1 goal, 2 assists.
Yeah, Brad Self.
1 goal. That's it.
Yeah, Brad Self had 2 goals on transition. That was it.
Yeah, he beat out the majority of the offense.
Right.
He could play in Toronto doing that.
Yeah, so they basically played this game as to not get hurt. And you can actually see it. The play was just sloppy on both ends. Not just on Colorado's end, but also on New England's end. I mean,
which puts a whole lot of alarm bells if you're a New England fan because they're trying to win.
Right.
That would scare me. If they're playing that sloppy on a game on a must-win for them, where the other team is basically going, take it, and you're playing sloppy,
yeah,
that scares me a lot.
Well, I mean, if you look at the turnovers, okay, New England had 21 turnovers, Colorado had 24. Out of the 21 that New England had, Colorado caused 12 of them. But out of the 24 turnovers from Colorado, New England forced 19 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something.
Yeah, except for one thing is that Colorado wasn't really interested. Colorado really wasn't concentrating. And I think it would have been a different story if the game meant something to them.
Right. But I mean,
I don't give heed to these numbers.
No, but what I'm getting at is whether or not Colorado was going hard after the ball in turnovers and it didn't mean anything to them, they forced 19 out of the 24 turnovers, but they didn't capitalize on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, alarm bells that scare the crap out of me if I'm a New England fan.
Right, because when we get to
they should have walked away with this game.
When we get to our picks this week, you're going to understand why I'm picking the way I am.
Okay.
Because you look at this last week's game and the one before, it'll tell you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you caused 19 out of 24 turnovers. You should be putting that ball in the net. Okay? If the team's handing it to you, you should be stepping on their throat. Okay?
Yeah, but this game looked a lot like the one that got just spanked by Buffalo.
Right. And I think we're going to get to that one real soon. but yeah, this was just totally sloppy between both of them. Colorado was 1 for 3 on the power play. New England had one opportunity. They didn't capitalize on it. Colorado picked up 80 loose balls to New England 66. Face-offs 11-9 in favor of Colorado. So you could tell there wasn't even a big struggle on the face-offs. And the shots on goal 49-42 in favor of New England. And it just didn't seem the way the way it should have been. Yeah, there was just
15,000 plus people went home scratching their heads.
Yeah, and don't know how many people were sitting at home watching it, scratching. I know I was scratching my head trying to figure out what the heck is going on here when the team's playing this sloppy. Why aren't you capitalizing on it? One bright side to this. Kevin Crowley picked up 5 goals on the night. His second goal of the game at 11:16.
It's a good thing. If he didn't score those 5, they lose.
Right. But
on a game they can't lose, they would have lost.
They would have lost, right.
Hello?
But more importantly, I won't say more importantly, but at that point in time, at 11:16 of the first, when they made the score 3-1 in their favor, Kevin Crowley surpassed his career high in goals. He came in with 45 being his career high. He was at 44. Now with the 5 he has, he now sits at 49. He is now the league leader in goals with 49. And he still has 2 games to go. To say 60 is in reach, it's possible. He has to go off for 5 in each of the next 2 games, 5 in one, 6 in another. But definitely 50 is at reach. I would even say at least 55.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't think he gets 5 against Matt Vince.
I don't think so either. But you never know.
True.
You never know. I've seen him do it. So I wouldn't doubt. I wouldn't bet money on it. That's for sure. Okay. So that's a big accomplishment for Kevin. Obviously he traded all those in to already have a playoff spot clinched. Okay, that's for sure. You can score as many goals as you want, but it's you give them all back if it means you could clinch a playoff spot. So he ended up getting, like you said, Gary, without his 5. Who knows what would have happened? Because Stephane LeBlanc just had the 1 goal. That was the one that started the game off at 32 seconds. Kalen Crawford just had a goal with 2 assists. Kyle Buchanan a goal and 3 assists. Again, curious by his absence is Kevin Buchanan, who was not in the lineup again. So you try to figure that out. Adam Bomberry with a goal. Riley O'Connor picks up 4 assists on the game. And like I said, it was just a sloppy game on both ends. This could have been a game that New England could have made a statement and, been a little bit more crisper in their passes and their gameplay and, make people think around the league, okay, 2 games left, we got to really buckle down with, we're playing them. So.
Well, I got to admit, man, everybody in the East is really making me scratch my head at one point or another. And even down the stretch when, it's there for the taking.
Yeah.
Every one of these teams are tripping over their own feet. Every one of them.
Yeah. Well, look at what Rochester did, okay? They were 2-6 at one point. They lost 6 in a row. Now they're 9-7. So they've won 7 of their last 8. Meanwhile,
I got to admit, though, being at the game against Toronto, if Toronto wasn't playing so futilely, or whatever word you'd like to use, they should have won the game.
Yeah.
Rochester didn't win. Toronto found a way to lose.
Right. And sometimes
they
you
were
just...
the recipients of really, really stupid play in the second half. When Toronto was playing as they could, it was 8-3 Toronto. And they were firing on all cylinders. So, I'm not convinced. And I don't see an Eastern team that can go against the West.
Oh, no. Well, the only team I see that could probably do that would be Rochester against Saskatchewan because they beat them twice.
I'm not convinced from what I saw over the last little while.
No, I'm not either, but just knowing that they have the mental part of it.
Series? I don't see it being even close.
You know what? I don't know. I got to see how Rochester plays in the last two games.
If it's a one and done, I would say, yeah, there's a chance. There's a probably 45% chance anything can happen. And a best 2 out of 3, usually the cream rises to the top.
Yeah, and Rochester has that too. So, I mean, if they meet, I think we're going to be in for a better game, 2 better games, or at least 2 better games than we had with the Georgia series. Because I think
considering the last game was an overtime game, so yeah, no, I doubt that. I doubt that highly.
We'll have to see what happens. We have to see who comes out of the East. We have to see who comes out of the West. I mean, there's no guarantee that Saskatchewan will come out, but the percentages are high that they will.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got a better chance of trying to figure out will Colorado get over the first round hump that they always have problems with. So we'll get into that obviously later down the line. But New England wins the sloppy game, 10-6, and yeah, as I said, it moves them to 8-8 in a tie with Buffalo for that last playoff spot. So New England's in 4th because Buffalo has swept them in the season series, 3-0. So Buffalo holds that tiebreaker. Now the next game we have was Buffalo at Calgary, and it was kind of a interesting game at first because
well, a couple of Buffalo fans asked if Buffalo went out drinking at the half.
Yeah.
I've never seen a team. Well, I can't say that because I've seen Toronto do dumb things.
Yeah. But, okay. I'm glad you stopped yourself on that.
But it's weird because it all comes down to one play. The end of the first half. Now it was a back and forth game. This whole first half. Calgary got 1, Buffalo got 2. Calgary got 1, Buffalo got 1. Calgary got 1, Buffalo got 1. And this went through. The second quarter was Calgary got 3, Buffalo got 3. And it looked like Buffalo was going up 7-6 at the half.
Yep.
And then there was a few seconds left in the half. And Buffalo, again, they looked like they were going in. Calgary had a power play. They pulled their goalie as well. They went with 1 set play, and although it says 3 seconds left, with 0.6 of a second left, Dane Dobie put the ball in and tied the game on the power play. Now, you would think that, well, whatever, and they all went to the dressing room, and that's the end of it. But that seemed to deflate Buffalo to the extent that the next 9 goals over the next quarter and a half were all to Calgary. In a game that Buffalo needed, that Calgary didn't need, Calgary got 10 in a row.
And not one of them was on the power play.
No.
Or shorthanded.
And not one of them was anything that they had to work for because it looked like Buffalo's defense at that point in the second half were standing still. They could have bought a ticket.
Yeah.
All Calgary did was move in the lanes and shoot. They hung Bouquet out to dry. Mercifully, accordingly took him out and put in Higgins.
Yeah.
Who, when he did come in, curbed it a little bit. Not tons, but he curbed it. And at that point, Calgary pulled in the reins. But, I wouldn't blame half of that on Bouquet. Literally, he had no help. And offensively, where did they go? They were nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. You're talking about, the Sean Evans and guys. These guys did nothing. Nothing. Mitch Jones, he did nothing in the second half. He had a goal at the very, very end, but it meant nothing. certainly had them all, jumping and ready to go. There was a thriller sighting.
Yep.
Yeah, he knocked a few guys
and
around.
we know how happy he was to be activated in that lineup because we had him on last week, and he was.
Oh, he was elated, and
yes.
Funny thing was he was describing all the travel he had to do just to get back home the next day. That entailed flying from Calgary to Toronto, driving from Toronto to Buffalo, and then driving from Buffalo to Syracuse.
Right.
Just a short, full day's worth of travel.
Yeah.
But you do it for the love, and he explained that explicitly last week.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of travel coming up this week, coming up after the game. Because if you watched the show last night, he's going out to San Diego next week for a few days to do some business.
Yeah, as soon as the game's over, more or less after 7:16, he's flying right out to San Diego.
Yeah. Because it's funny, they were trying to figure out how they're going to do the show. Because he'll be in San Diego at the time, but so I'm kind of curious what happens out, what happens out there. But yeah, Buffalo just, 10 straight goals?
10 straight goals. On a game that Buffalo needed.
Yeah.
So exactly where's Buffalo sitting in all this?
Buffalo is sitting right now at 8-8.
But what I'm saying is, as a team, when you have the intestinal fortitude, and you come up flatter than a pancake.
Yeah.
What does that say about the team?
You wonder if they just took the team for granted. Maybe they knew,
I don't know, because they played a great first half. It was even. It was 7-7.
Right, but
nobody came out in the second half.
Yeah, but my thing is, even at that point, when you see the game, you see the score 7-7, or you're going to the game, the players know that, hey, Calgary really has nothing to play for.
Other than they had 17,000 people in the building.
Right. They had their playoff spots clinched. They know who they're playing. They know where they have to go. It's just a matter of when. So they don't want to go and get hurt, and maybe a couple of the players kind of relaxed a bit. I mean, you could ask them, they'll say, no, we never relax. We still go all out. And somewhere in the back of your mind, that your opponent really doesn't need this game at all. It don't matter if they win or lose it. It ain't going to affect their playoff, seedings or anything. But what this does for Calgary is it gives them a little momentum to build towards the end of the season to face a common opponent in Colorado again in the first round of the playoffs. And this is where Colorado's got to say, whoa, look at what Calgary just did to Buffalo. So it should be, kind of interesting. You go through the Buffalo roster, 9 goals, and Mitch Jones, Vaughn Harris, and Durston all had 2 goals each. Other than that, you had single markers from Dane Smith, Sean Evans, and Mitch DeSnew. That's it. That was the Buffalo scoring. You held Dane Smith to a goal. You held Sean Evans to a goal. And their only other single marker came from a defenseman, Mitch DeSnew. And then, Vaughn Harris with 2, Mitch Jones with 2, and Durston with 2. Where was, Steenhouse? He didn't have 1 shot on goal. He picked up 3 loose balls, and that was it. Not a single shot on goal.
Yep. But that was the story of the second half of all these guys.
Josh Byrne. 0 goals, 1 assist, 5 shots. The potential rookie of the year. When it comes time to step forward to say, hey, I deserve rookie of the year and this is why, you did nothing. And then you go to the Calgary side. Wes Berg, a goal, 7 assists. He had a Mark Matthews game.
Yeah, well, the goal came near the end. He had already had the 7 assists.
7 assists, yeah.
He was there everywhere. Holden Catoni had the game of his life.
Yeah, 5 and 2 for Holden.
He could have shot it from the stands and would have gone in. It didn't make a difference where he was. Dane Dobie,
5 and 2,
4 assists. Another one who was having a great game.
Yeah. Dixon 2 and 4. I mean, it's there. You have it. You have it there. Hartnett with a goal, McIntosh with a goal, Berg with 1 goal, like we said, but he had the 7 big assists. And then Dixon, Catoni, and Dobie combined for 10 goals. Just those 3 players. And you still had some of the other ones, chipping in. Riley Lowen with a goal, and Cummings had 1. So it's it's going through there, and this is a game that can give Calgary some momentum as the playoffs draw closer. As the regular season comes to an end, you don't want to face a team that's hot. And like we said, Calgary can't move up or down in the standings, but you start getting players like Dixon, Catoni, Dobie, you start getting them on fire with their shots, that could spell trouble. And in only a single game elimination, if you're Saskatchewan or Colorado, I'd worry. I really would. Because we don't have that mini game anymore. So, like you said, Gary, they chased, they took Alex Bouquet out, put in Zach Higgins for the rest of the way. He stopped 15 of 19 shots, only let up 4 goals, but that 10-goal run just took everything.
Yeah, at that point the damage is done, right?
Yeah. Just took everything out of the sails. I mean, with 0.6 seconds, you tie the game up, and then you say, oh, you know what? Let's start the second half. Let's score 9 more times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Going on to standings now. You got Rochester sitting tied with Georgia, 9 and 7. Buffalo and New England are tied 8 and 8. And there's lone Toronto in the basement there at 7 and 9. So as we discussed off the top of the show, all those playoff scenarios are all over the next 2 weeks. And
we still have one more game to do. That was Georgia at Saskatchewan. That was the last game. But one thing real quick, I wanted to bring this out. With the Colorado game. Yeah, it was sloppy. But if you look at it, sloppy, but also the defense kind of held them at bay as well. Because they went 3 times. There was 3 spans of them not even scoring a goal with how sloppy this game was. They had to go 10 minutes and 49 seconds in between their first 2 goals. Then they went another 20 minutes and 42 seconds between their 3rd and 4th goal. And then their last dry spell, as I'd call it, was after they scored a minute 12 into the final quarter. After they scored that goal, they went the rest of the game without scoring. So you're looking at over 13 minutes there, 21 on the other. I mean, you're looking at 45 plus minutes without putting a ball in the net.
Yep.
I mean, that's just, the game was sloppy by both, but still, you've got to be doing something when you have, spans like that and you're not scoring. The first 2 goals that your team scored was by your transition player, Brad Self.
Mm-hmm.
So, I brought that up because of the way Calgary's playing. So, if Calgary does something like that...
Simply put, Calgary scares me in the playoffs.
Yeah. Because since, we've said this over and over again.
I've said to the Saskatchewan people, I would sooner see Colorado in the next round than Calgary, because they're too unpredictable for me.
Yeah, because since 2006, that was the last time Colorado won the Champions Cup. They failed to get out of the first round for 9 years. 1 year they didn't even make the playoffs, and then last year they finally got past the first round, but they got knocked out in the Western Finals. So just to let you know, since 2006, other than last year, 10 times into the playoff, for 10 years, 9 of those years they couldn't get past the first round, which is basically was either Calgary or at the time Edmonton, and 1 year they didn't make it. So that's why you always hear us talking about that first round hump. That's it. You never know what's going to happen when playoffs run around. So this is where you really have to worry if you're Colorado, the way Calgary's starting to play right now. The last game for the week was Georgia at Saskatchewan. You called this game, Gary. You called this perfectly, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing from Saskatchewan. Yeah, I would have thought.
I kind of figured in my thinking, whatever you want to call it, that Georgia was going to. We've been saying this about the East teams all night, but that Georgia just needed this and had to do this, and it wasn't even so much for standings as it was for their own psyche that they could beat Saskatchewan. Now you got Saskatchewan after shellacking Vancouver the night before,
and they had
you have them also not playing for anything and just trying to basically stay healthy.
Right.
But the interesting thing was that Evan Kirk was in net, and he gave up 15 of the goals, which is strange. I would have figured Tyler Carlson was in net on this one. But right off the hop, Jeff Shatler scored for Saskatchewan. And you thought, okay, it's a regular game. But then all of a sudden, Georgia took over, and it looked like I thought they were wearing different sweaters, because what Saskatchewan usually does and siphons the play to them, Georgia was doing.
Yeah.
And now, before I really get into this, now Saskatchewan repainted all the boards in the arena.
Yes.
It had all 16 of the names.
No, it had all 29. They said, Gary.
All 29. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all 29 of the team on there. Again, they had a great presentation. Rush Hulk was feeling well, so he was on the field as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and then both teams were wearing jerseys that are, I think, just coming to the end of their auction on eBay. You can take a look on both Georgia and on Saskatchewan's websites, as well as going on eBay and typing in #HumboldtStrong.
Well, Gary,
and you put a bid on these things still.
Yeah. Before you go further with that, bring up why you're mentioning Georgia, because they did something that I don't think the fans in Saskatchewan were really expecting.
Well, yeah, they had their custom jerseys made for this as well, that they're auctioning off as well, and 100% of the proceeds are going to the Humboldt team.
Right.
So, yeah.
Saskatchewan came out.
Something like this.
Yeah, Saskatchewan came out with the back of their jerseys that said Humboldt. And when Georgia came out onto the floor, they got a big ovation because the back of their jerseys said Broncos. So it just, it lets them know that even, as far south as Georgia, it's being felt. And seeing the teams mesh together at the face-off circle was another, big thing. And then you're still hearing that chant, that "Let's Go Broncos" chant.
Oh, you'll hear that for a while.
Go through, yes, and it's it's resonating all through the league. It really is, and with Georgia doing what they did, with their jerseys, and Saskatchewan putting the normally would be the sponsors going around the boards. It's usually like a magnetic, heavy magnet thing or whatever. That's they rolled this out all along the boards, and it had all 29 players, coaches, trainers that were on the team. Yeah, whoever was on that bus. I'm not saying that 29 people passed away. No, they had all the people that were on there, and then they had the first responders come out. And if you were watching it, you could see the emotion in the first responders, because when the play-by-play guy, or who the arena announcer was saying that these 4 or 5 first responders were the first ones on the scene to try to get help and everything, you could see them literally crying right there, because it obviously brings back memories of what they saw when they got there. And you got to feel for them. You really, really do. Everybody's like, oh yeah, it's great. You're a first responder, but being a first responder means you're the first one to get there, and you're seeing everything. I guess you could say raw, Gary.
Yeah, does it happen?
Yeah, I mean, and the one woman that was there, that was one of the first responders. You see her standing there crying, and it's a shame. It really is. I mean, we mentioned this before. No parent should be burying their child. None at all. And it's just, tragic what happened, and it's going to continue to obviously, affect, that community, and the Saskatchewan Rush are going to do what they can do, and it seems like other teams are pitching in as well. So hopefully, like I said last week, Gary, they had on Twitter, we see you, we hear you, we love you. They know that it's out there. So, Gary, like you said, you go to each of the team's websites, go to eBay, you can see what the jerseys are going for. 100% of the proceeds are going there. And even I think the 50-50, wasn't that over $145,000?
135. Take home was almost $86,000.
Wow.
But that meant the other $86,000 was going to Humboldt.
Humboldt, yeah, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would think that maybe the person who won it maybe gave a nice little donation as well. I'm not saying that they did or not, but if it was me, that's what I would have done. Mm-hmm. Give a nice donation. But that just shows you the outpouring that is going on. Normally you see a 50-50 is around 50, 60,000 people, putting in $4 or $5 a piece. You have 15,000 people in the stands. Yeah, you split that. You're over $135,000. I mean, really, that tells you the outpour that's there. Okay? You're pushing close to $150. That's almost $10 a person in that arena when you average it out. So, hopefully all this can be some kind of comfort, some kind of solution. What I don't know what word I'm looking for, but something to help the families and the community start to heal with what's happened. Now with the game, like you said, Saskatchewan had nothing to play for. They're just going to make sure that they don't get hurt. One good thing that happened, and we talked about this earlier in the year, Kyle Rubish finally scored a goal. His first goal in 3 years.
Yep, happened, yes. Yes, it happened early into the second quarter, and on a pass from Mike Messenger. So that part of it was fun for Saskatchewan. But the rest of this game really was Georgia. Yeah. And they scored from everywhere. The Thompsons did what the Thompsons do.
Well, Lyle Thompson did what...
Lyle there, yeah.
Five goals for Lyle.
Yeah, Miles has been kind of absent lately.
Yeah, he only had 1 assist, and he only had 4 shots on goal. But then you had Jordan Hall, who's always... I guess I don't want to use the word pest, but when he starts...
Well, he's always in the mix anyways.
Yeah, when he starts feeling it, he's doing good. He had 2 and 3.
King, for a guy who usually does the scoring, he had 6 assists.
6 assists,
so
yep.
He's done an awful lot of the grinding work, too. Shane Jackson with 2 goals and 3 assists. Kyle Matisse had a goal, 3 assists. And Randy Stotts, he had himself a game. 4 goals, 4 assists.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
So, yeah, Georgia came firing on this one. Trying to send a message for the playoffs, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And the thing is, they have to get into the playoffs, and...
Yeah, they seem to be ramping it up because they had their colossal collapses at the beginning.
Yeah, well, they have... You know, like I said, they got Vancouver next Friday. They're off this week, which should be a game they win against Vancouver. But then the last game of the season may mean something. That's against New England. You know, it might come down to whoever wins that game gets into the playoffs between New England and Georgia. You know,
I'm a betting man, and I am. I put my money on Georgia. But,
yeah, I mean, we won't know until, you know, this week plays out and where everything is. Like we said earlier, Gary, if New England loses this week, Georgia can wrap it up next Friday by beating Vancouver. So it's going to be crazy the next 2 weeks. I mean, yeah, there's a possibility that the defending champions may not be in the playoffs. Yeah, that's something you got to look at. But that's something we'll know after the games are played this week. But yeah, Georgia 16-10. The shots 52-49 in favor of Georgia. Loose balls were somewhat close, 72-64. Saskatchewan won the face-off battle. Power plays were basically even. Saskatchewan 3 for 6. Georgia was 3 for 7. And you had Georgia picked up 2 shorthanded goals, and Saskatchewan picked up 1. So yeah, that game was, I don't know. I don't want to say a walkthrough, but both teams decided to leave the defense in the locker room for the fourth quarter. Because they combined for 12 goals total in that final quarter. I mean, they score, 3, 6, 10, 11, 12. They score 14 combined in the first 3 quarters. And then the last one, they decided to put up a show, and they combined it. They combined for 12. So they said, you know what? Don't worry about the goals. We're just going to shoot on empty nets. But as you said, Gary, Georgia won that game. It puts them in the tie with Rochester at 9-7 for first place, and then Buffalo, New England are 8-8, and then Toronto's sitting back there at 7-9. Saskatchewan already locked up everything, first overall, then Colorado, then Calgary. That's how the West is right there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts on that. Now, this week's schedule is a very interesting one. We only have 3 games, but 2 of them, the first 2 games, can mean so much. And we're just going to start right off with what's the first game here. New England at Rochester. I'm coming out and I'm saying this right now, and I think it's probably going to take you by surprise. Rochester wins this one. For one reason, or 2 reasons actually. In a game against Calgary, New England had to go to overtime to beat a team. Now, I'm not saying that this was a game that mean anything. They should just lay down, okay? A team that was just playing as to not get hurt. They had to go to overtime to win that game. Last week, against Colorado, they played so sloppy it made a sloppy Joe look neat. Okay? Granted, they won 10-6. But look at how sloppy they played. Okay? The turnovers, like I mentioned, they forced 19 of the 24 turnovers. They failed to capitalize on most of them. Okay? Kevin Crowley just picks up the 5 goals. He had half of the goals. And what have I always said? You cannot rely on one player to score your 5 goals, to get half of the goals.
They lose that one too.
Right. Callum Crawford only had 1 goal. I've really yet to see him show up to really hit his stride and be on a consistent basis. Okay? This game is in Rochester. It's Rochester's last home game of the regular season. They know it's at stake. They know if they win this game, they have a big chance of hosting at least one home playoff game. And like when we went over the tiebreakers, if things go right, they could win the division. This is why I'm going with Rochester. They're at home, last home game of the season. They've won 7 of their last 8. New England had that 4-game losing streak. Now they're finally getting back on track. But it was against 2 teams that the game didn't mean anything for. And they had to go to overtime for one of them, and the one last week was so sloppy, I don't even think either team deserved to win. So that's why I'm going with Rochester to win this game. And technically, I would just about end New England's season.
No, I agree with you, and I go one step further as I look at the Rochester defense on a team that actually needs to win. The Rochester offense on a team that needs to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think New England matches up very well against them.
No.
And I think with the lack of defense, I think that Rochester can go to town.
Yeah.
I think Cody Jamieson has a huge game. If they play anything like they played in the second half of the Toronto game, they should walk all over New England. If they play anything like the first half, it's going to be a very close game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Rochester has that depth on their offense that can stay consistent with Jamieson, Vitarelli, Resetaris, Kyle Jackson, Austin Shanks, who's now, pitching in. I mean, you just have these players there.
Let alone that they win every single face-off, or damn near every single face-off.
Right.
Which
is
went 22 for 28 last week.
Right. And
on a game where they were losing for most of it.
Yeah. And when you look at New England, okay, you have Kevin Crowley, who's their leading scorer. He's got 49 goals, but you don't know whether, you know this for a fact, whether Stefan LeBlanc's going to show up. When or if he's going to show up, and for how long.
Mm-hmm. And do they key on Crowley, and then all of a sudden they leave the Buchanans to score?
Well, there's only been one Buchanan lately.
Yeah, but really there's only been one Buchanan all season.
Yeah.
You can mix and match. They may be dressed, but that doesn't matter.
Right. But, Kevin Buchanan hasn't been in the lineup for, I think, almost 4 games now. So I don't know if there's an injury or if it's the coach's decision or what, because there's nothing's ever been said.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious if I see him out there, if he's just wearing street clothes, if he's even there with the team. Because usually if you're scratched and you're with the team, you're, in street clothes sitting on the bench or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He's not there, then I don't know, maybe it could be something personal, family related, don't know. But he hasn't been in the lineup, and you haven't heard about an injury or anything like that. But yeah, I just think the depth is too much for Rochester. Too much on Rochester's side, I should say. Defense-wise, offense, the goaltending. Granted, Aaron Bold is a good goaltender, but going up against Matt Vince, it just, I don't know. With the defense that they have in front of each other, the edge is completely in Rochester. The crowd there is going to be wild for this game. They know what's at stake. I don't see them faltering in this game. I hate to say it because, like I said, I have, there's a couple guys on that team that became good friends with, and I would like to see them do good, but I don't see it. I really don't.
Over to Buffalo we go.
Yes. Now, I'll let you go first on this one. Even though I think I know where you're going, where you've been going the same place every single time.
I'm not going to stop now, am I?
No, why should you?
If they don't do it this week, I could probably do it next week. But But no, I'm going with Toronto, and reason is when they are firing, when they are playing as a unit that actually is interested, they are one of the top in the league. There is so much firepower that they've had trouble with some teams that have some pretty awesome defenses. Teams like Colorado, teams like Rochester, with extreme goaltending as well. Buffalo I don't put into this category. I don't put Bouquet in the top 5 in the league. I don't put the Buffalo defense in the top echelon in the league and shutting teams down. One only has to look last week to when they fell asleep during Calgary. And when this much is on the table and you have two teams that are pretty evenly matched, I agree that most times you go with the home team. But I'm looking at the team that needs it the most. And really it is do or die. They don't do it, and this team doesn't come back next year as the same team.
Right. Well, it's also, you can say it's also do or die for Buffalo. Not so much die, but with the way, the standings are in the league, them sitting at 8-8.
Mm-hmm. Now, it is just to make mention, it is Tucker night.
Yes.
Tucker Williams night in Buffalo.
And those jerseys will go up for auctions as well.
Against Lymphoma. So the Buffalo jerseys will be different, and even the ball is going to be a different stamp on it.
Yeah.
So it'll be a wild night there. I'm sure that they're going to get 17,000 inside Buffalo for that.
Oh, easily. Yeah, and yeah.
But I just I'm going with Toronto on this one for those reasons.
Yeah, I
think those defense has been strong all year. I think they can give fits to the Buffalo offense.
Yeah, see, I'm wavering on this game only because of the way Buffalo played against Calgary last week. That's still every time I say I think Buffalo's going to win this because they're at home. They need this game. They win this, they could just about clinch a playoff spot. For them to clinch, they have to win, and New England has to lose. So, with the way I'm picking, with New England losing, if they would win, yes, they clinch a playoff spot. But that Calgary game still keeps on popping into my head, and then at the same time, shots from the outside are popping into my head from Toronto. So I don't know where to go on this. I said this the other day. I was actually talking to my wife about it, and she was shocked when I said it. I'm going Buffalo. I hate picking Buffalo, but with them being at home, and they let up 10 goals at the end. They let Calgary go on that 10-goal run. Toronto had they decided to shoot from the outside in the second half. So both teams in the second half didn't do anything to propel them into this game, to give them any, kind of mental advantage, saying, oh my God, Buffalo scored 10 in a row. No, they let up 10 in a row. That's what Toronto's saying. And Buffalo, in the meantime, is saying, hey, they were doing great in the first half. All of a sudden, they decided to shoot from the outside, and they can't do nothing. So if our defense puts them to the outside, we have this. Now you got to look at the goaltending. Yeah, Nick Rose, Alex Bouquet. Big advantage for Rosie. Big advantage. Defense-wise as well, I think the defense is even because you got Steve Priolo there for Buffalo. He should have, as we talked about last year, Gary, when the awards came out, he should have had Defensive Player of the Year. He really should have, and he kind of got, ripped off in that. But Toronto has their share of defenders as well. It's going to be tough, but I just think Toronto has been playing kind of hot and cold, nothing really consistent. And with Buffalo at home, I think Buffalo's just going to win this one at home. It's going to be a close game, though. this is going to come down to like the last few minutes of the game. So if you're going to the game, bring a seatbelt and buckle in.
I agree,
because it's going to be a wild ride. I mean, yeah, part of me is saying, oh yeah, let Toronto win and really make the standings interesting. But I just think right now Buffalo knows what they need, what's on the line. Dane Smith only scoring a goal and Sean Evans only scoring a goal last week. I think they got something to say. Yeah, and I don't know. I just see that happening. I really do. So I'm going to go Buffalo on that one. And then the last game that we have, a game that really doesn't mean anything. The only thing that it means would be, I think this is, where's that? Vancouver. This is Vancouver's last home game of the season.
mercifully.
Well, it's not their last game of the season. It's the last game at home.
Mercifully.
Yes. And for a team that couldn't win up to 10 games on the road in their whole history of being in Vancouver, they've won both their games on the road. They have yet to pick up a home win. Unfortunately, they're not picking up a home win in this game either. Okay, because Calgary has one more game to go after this, so does Vancouver. Calgary wants to put another hurting out there. I know they do. And like I said before, the only thing good about this game is that Jake Elliott is on the call for this one. It'll be the last one of the season for him, unfortunately. Unless they get him on Twitter games during the playoffs. I don't know. But I just see Calgary winning this game. I don't think it's going to be a runaway. I think it's going to be like a 4 or 5 goal game. And just Calgary just controlling the whole entire thing. Because all season, Vancouver hasn't shown me anything. You know, Reese Dutch, nobody. He's been struggling the whole entire season. So I just see Calgary getting this one, going to 89, and waiting for their last game of the season, in which they play. Who they play? The last week of the season. I think it's a team in the East. No, Saskatchewan. Okay, they got Saskatchewan.
I don't think they're going to win that one, but who knows who Saskatchewan plays in that game. But they definitely don't want to lose 2 going into the playoffs. So you know they're going to play. Mind you, I expect to see Chigliano in that.
In which? The Saskatchewan game or both?
No, well, maybe both, but I expect it in this game against Vancouver.
Yeah.
Just in raw talent alone, you know Calgary's the better team.
Right.
Being in Vancouver, it can be on the moon. It won't make a difference.
And also,
Calgary's going to beat Vancouver.
And also,
can't seem to gel. They can't seem to mesh. They don't do well at home for some reason. And I think they're mailing it in right now.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, this game on Saturday, they're giving out a bobblehead of Corey Small. So this is
going away gift. He can sign him for them.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. So this will be the last time that people will see Corey Small in a Vancouver uniform at the Langley Event Center. As we said all season long, he wants to move back east, and it looks like that's what he's doing. And obviously, Vancouver said they ain't going to trade him unless they get something worthwhile. But it looks like he's going to be coming back east. So curious to see who takes him. But yeah, I guess it's easy to say Calgary over Vancouver in this one. So that's how we have it this week. Both Gary and I agree Rochester over New England. We differ with Buffalo and Toronto. Gary obviously going with Toronto. And me, I'm picking Buffalo. That's whoa. I don't know. I just think that they're going to do it. If Toronto wins, hey, way to go. Yeah, I just think with everything that's on the line right now, and Buffalo playing at home, I just think they're going to do it. And obviously, Calgary over Vancouver in that game. Now, one other thing that happened this week in the NLL was the one last thing before we end the show: the Combine that is coming up. It was just released yesterday that there will be 5 combines. So people in the following cities will be able to see some of the top talent coming out in this year's draft. Your first one will be on July 8th at the NYTEX Sports Center in Dallas, July 8th for the first combine. Your second one is going to be at the Valley View Casino Center, and that, I believe, is going to be where the San Diego Seals are going to be playing. I may be wrong, but in San Diego, that's on August 11th. The third one is on September 8th. Now, this is what gets me. The third and fourth ones, how close they are, will be in the Langley Event Center on September 8th. That is a Saturday. Then on Sunday, September 9th, I will get the honor of being in Voorhees, New Jersey at the Flyers Skate Zone, which is also the Philadelphia Wings practice facility, for that combine on September 9th. That's a Sunday. Then 6 days later, 2 days before the draft, at the track, the Toronto Rock Athletic Center in Oakville, September 15th, for that combine. And then, as I said, 2 days later, that Monday is the draft. So if you're in those cities, in Dallas, Texas, San Diego, California, Langley, British Columbia, Voorhees, New Jersey, Philadelphia, PA, Delaware, the tri-state area there, September 9th there. It's all on NLL.com. And obviously at the track on September 15th. Get out and see what players are coming out, especially in San Diego and Philly, or in Jersey, I should say, where you're getting your new teams. Because when the coin toss happens next month, or the beginning of June, sometime between May and June, whoever wins the toss will have their choice. Do they want to go first in the expansion or first in the NLL entry draft? So regardless, if you're picking one or two, you'll get a general idea of what top players might be coming to your city, which would be kind of interesting. I don't know how many you went to, how many combines you may have gone to just to see, some of the top talent. Like, Josh Byrne last year was obviously, one of the top players there. So maybe people from Buffalo might have been there watching him and saying, "Oh my God, he's going to be wearing our colors next year." That's who we're looking at. And then, when all the people from Inside Lacrosse, Steven Stamp, and writers of that magnitude put out their mock drafts of who they think is going to go 1, who's going 2, who's going 3, et cetera, et cetera. People in San Diego and people in Philly, where they're getting new teams, can say, we might get one of these two guys. Let me keep an eye on this one. So it could be kind of interesting.
Definitely. And this time, with them having it in different cities, it just spreads it out and lets the league think. Now, Dallas is also doing it, which is awesome, because I expect they're going to be seeing teams there soon, too. And just to get that flavor into them, the NLL fever is going to be big. Yeah, I know the guys who've already enrolled, and I can't wait to show their stuff there. So
yeah, I think there's going to be 2 more teams coming in next year.
Yeah, but if it goes to the blueprint, it'll be for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, so like for next year, because in Dallas, big thing in Dallas right now is the outdoor league, the MLL, the Major Lacrosse League, because they picked up the team that left Rochester, the Rattlers. They're now the Dallas Rattlers. So Dallas has also been talked about as having an indoor team, possibly run by Mark Cuban. So there's a lot going on there. So they may have an indoor and outdoor team by the time next, not this season coming up, 18-19, the 2019-2020 season comes about. So That could be one of the places there. There's been other talk, possibility of Edmonton getting back into the thick of it to have a team again. What was the other one we were talking about? Was it Halifax? Yeah, because Halifax actually has a trademark for the name of the team already. The Halifax Privateers. That's already on the copyright, under the NLL copyright. So that could be a giveaway right there that they're coming into the league, maybe with Dallas or with somebody else. So we'll just have to, see what happens, and as long as the league doesn't get watered down, I think everything will be all right. Because that's the one thing people are worried about the league being watered down. But there's so much talent out there right now, I don't see how that can happen. So, well, with that being said, Gary, that's going to end the show this week. 2 weeks left in the regular season. Do or die for certain teams, especially for the Toronto Rock. A loss and that's it. I mean, they're going to play Buffalo, always a tough place to play. Obviously, the Toronto fans are going to show up as they normally do. They're going to be loud, and hopefully they're going to see what happens. I'm not hoping they lose. I'm just picking Buffalo because I just think they're going to win the game, but I wouldn't mind seeing Toronto win. It would add a nice little wrench into things as we come down to the last week. Let everybody's brains go nuts trying to figure things out here. So, Gary, I want to thank you again. Another great show. Regular season almost coming to an end, but we're still going to have a whole lot to talk about coming up with the expansion drafts, the playoffs, and free agencies. So, you'll get to see our friend Billy O'Brien, the Beast. We'll be out there.
They're live and in color.
Yes, he'll be out there. I was hoping to see him this weekend, but obviously he was released in the beginning of the season by New England, so that kind of wiped that out. But you'll get a chance to see him there, and who knows, maybe I'll get to see him in the playoffs if both Rochester and Buffalo advance. So we'll have to see, what happens, but it's going to be interesting. So like I said, you're going to Buffalo, strap yourself in for a wild game, and also in Rochester. I expect both of those barns to be rocking. I-90 is going to be shaking big time this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if you could hear the people in Rochester, and I wouldn't be surprised if I could hear the people in Buffalo. We'll have to see what happens on that. So, for Gary Grube at laxphilly.com, I'm Rocco Granado from InTheCrosbyTrust.com. We thank you for tuning in, listening to the show. Questions, comments, whatever, go to our page, Behind the Bench, on Facebook, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So until then, we'll see everybody next week. Take care.